Hey, Bigpod.
Hey,
So, I installed Arch Linux.
oh God,
Yeah. I have 300 packages update, and I'm really tempted to hit yes. Like, I
don't.
literally have a terminal right now open with the
You
Pac-Man
are
asking me
recording, don't.
yes or no. Are you sure?
You are recording, don't.
But I want to.
Don't.
Cue the music. Hey guys, welcome to No Tux Allowed, a Tuxbase Media Group production. And I am your host Josh today. I'm wearing my beautiful white t-shirt. Believe it or not, this is the same one as the last episode, but the difference is that rather than it being fresh out of the package, it's been washed. And I brought today my good friend Bigpod, whose shirt
Hello.
says that he goes on runs for the fun of it.
Definitely not.
Are you sure?
Shirt lies. I don't run much else for fun.
Okay. Well, just to let the audience know, my system did in fact not break yet, but we'll find out because it's Arch Linux. Things break for me all the time, just randomly. Like I can choose not to update, and my system will still break because it's Arch Linux. It hates me. But Big Pod, I have a date and appointment for December 6th. Do you know what that means?
Really?
Yes.
Saint Nicholas Day?
No, that's December 25th.
No, it's not.
Or wait, no. Saint Nicholas Day. Oh, right. We don't celebrate that here.
We do here. That's why I remembered it's, or as we in Slovenia like to call it, Miklaus. And it's basically that's how we call Saint Nicholas, Miklaus, because there are three different good men out there. You have Saint Nicholas Miklaus, you have Father Christmas, aka we all know who, and then you have on the last day of the year you have Father Winter, I believe you would call him in English.
Okay. Well, it is a little bit early in the year to be talking about those holidays because we haven't even had Halloween yet, and I'd rather talk about people dressing up and spooking people as ghosts. But what's important about December 6th is that's when Ohio Linux Fest is going to be going on.
Oh,
Yes, and I may or may not have a press pass, which means that I'm allowed to bring a camera with me. So, well, we don't know who's going to be there yet because they're still taking requests for speakers, but hey, I've already got it scheduled, and hopefully this year I won't be horribly sick, so I can actually show up because that's what happened last year.
yeah.
I
That
felt
happens
so
for
terrible.
conferences for me as well. Like
Yeah.
every time there is a good conference I want to visit, I get sick as a dog.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I just don't
anyways,
schedule conferences for myself anymore.
yeah, that's true. So you can go to OhioLinuxFest.org and you can look up all the details for like where it is, the exact dates, the eventual event schedule because I believe they're only doing one day this year rather than an entire weekend. If I remember right, or at least that's what they've been talking about. But I'm going to be there, and if you're a community member, I'm perfectly fine chatting with you too. Just make sure that if you see me with a camera and a microphone talking to somebody, try not to interrupt us, please.
Yeah,
But
you're gonna make my job a lot easier.
yeah. But anyways, speaking of conferences, a proposal was opened to both GNOME and KDE at the same time, detailing the exact same thing. Because every single year, GNOME holds their Guadec conference, which is their conference where it's just like, hey, this is the GNOME conference. This is where we all agree on what we're actually going to be doing together. When all the developers of GNOME and the GNOME applications get together, and they have like a conference, and this is where a lot of groundwork gets laid. And KDE has their Akademy conference, which is basically the same exact thing. Well, there's also the Linux App Summit, which is a conference that's been going for a little while now, where it is just applications. So, Peter DiCaprio and Mario Gasparri put proposals out to both GNOME and KDE that rather than, having 3 separate conferences, what if we just have one big mega conference? Just have GNOME guys there with the KDE guys with all the other application developers.
Yeah.
Now, I've gone to a lot of conferences in my time. Not necessarily for software conferences, but like other things too. And I think ultimately GNOME and KDE getting into a conference with each other, maybe they could actually get some groundwork done on say making Qt apps look better in GNOME, or making GNOME apps look better in KDE, or even just agreeing on a standard set of portals that they could both support for their Wayland protocols,
Exactly, yes. Just getting them together would be good.
Yeah, just getting them together in the same room would be amazing. Also, it's going to save a ton of money.
Yes.
Because renting event space is not the cheapest thing in the world.
Yeah, especially for 3 conferences and combining them into one.
Right? And then if you say if you're an application developer and you go to this conference,
you might need to go to 3.
Yeah, you might need to go to 3, but instead, hey, you have GNOME and KDE there, and you're kind of upset with both of them. You can shout at both at the same time now.
Maybe literally at the same time.
Yeah, maybe. The trade-off is that the Linux App Summit normally takes a crossover stretch of 4 days, and they're talking about making this up to 8 days. But this is still a proposal, so it's not official. It's roughly the last 2 weeks of June for 2026. Just roughly.
Yeah.
But they're saying, the big thing is they're also wanting to change it from a traveling location to a fixed location. So in traveling location model is where they're in different cities in different parts of the world every single year. But in this, they're proposing that they just switch to a fixed location in Brescia, Italy.
So that would be in the Lombardy region of Italy, which, while it is still far away from me for European standards, for American standards that would be a stone's throw. So maybe I'll be going if this proposal goes through, and we will see. Although, as I said before, I do get the sickness right before conferences, so maybe I won't be going.
Yeah, who knows? One thing I am wanting to get into is if we can get funding together and funding right, not necessarily from our show supporters, but our own funding. I would like to be able to go out to more conferences and do stuff like that, because heaven forbid, there was a lot that went on this year that I wanted to go to, but I just never really got around to.
Yeah.
But I'm mostly wanting to go to Ohio Linux Fest because it's the one conference that I try to go to every single year. So if I'm going to be there, just bring something with me, because heaven forbid, I talk to amazing people there all the time. The OpenSUSE people, always great to have, and honestly, they have the best merch every single year. But also, we have a problem, Bigpod, because I tried checking my email yesterday and it wasn't working.
Well, in my case, it was working. Maybe you just hit at the really wrong time.
Maybe. Well, it turns out though that it wasn't just our email, which by the way you can send us an email, contact@tuxbase.com. But It turns out that like half the internet was seemingly down too. Like people were complaining because they couldn't log into Fortnite. I mean, that's a
Yeah,
problem.
and
Fortnite.
many other services. So, what happened? Well, in the morning or really early morning at at 12:11 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time (PDT), Amazon started investigating increased error rates and latencies for multiple AWS services in US East 1 region, less commonly known as North Virginia.
Yeah.
It is the why that data center is so important. Do you know why, Josh?
Well, it's the eastern United States, which is the majority of the U.S. population. It's also the one I believe that shows up by default if you just open up the AWS console, go to EC2, I think it is, and just spin up a VM.
Yeah. But more importantly, this is the oldest region AWS ever offered, which means it's also the one they depend upon. So
Oh
that's
boy.
why everything was so bad as it was, because a lot of things that happen in the US East 1, aka North Virginia, can have global impact. Things like global tables for DynamoDB happen to be in US East 1. A lot of at least load balancing and certain things like that for their own control plane system happen to be in US East 1. Again, because it's the shall we say most important of the regions. But they've been for the longest time trying to decouple it from it, so this might have been just happened at the wrong time. But what really was a problem, a lot of companies also just creates services or things in US East 1 because it is like the one that will probably work,
Yeah.
yet it didn't. What
Right. So,
happened?
so
So
I read some of this here, and my initial thought was, hey, maybe somebody just accidentally unplugged something, but it's that other thing.
the
Apparently, it was
DNS.
DNS related. Yeah, it's always DNS, isn't it?
So what started this domino fall was that DNS resolution for the regional DynamoDB service endpoint stopped working. So the problem why we need DNS for this kind of stuff is, especially this kind of stuff like DynamoDB, which is a managed NoSQL database. Basically, you got keys and bunch of JSON as a value. That's the basic description of DynamoDB. Well, when you have DynamoDB is one of the more important services, as actually other services depend on it as a storage mechanism. Well, if you have a DynamoDB database here, you need to be able to get to it. And because these things are always moving targets, any kind of service, like IP for them are never like known to be the same IP for like more than possibly even a day. If even just an hour, the same IP, it's a long time. So we need to use some other system of service discovery. Well, DNS is already existing one, and it's been existing for way longer than clouds exist, and approximately as long as internet exists. So DNS works and works well, but something in the updating of the DNS probably didn't update correctly. So DNS was pointing to the wrong thing. So you couldn't access things like DynamoDB because that service endpoint was pointing wrong, which means that other things started to cascadely fail. So it was essentially a cascading failure, which brought down the whole region of US East 1 as things like load balancers and stuff like that depend on it to store information. Well, that brought down things like IAM, their policy system for logging into the entire system of control for AWS.
Oh
Which
boy.
these are really complex policy systems. I won't even go in there. The reason for why I did bring down that, because IAM is primarily based in US East 1, which is a problem, right?
It certainly sounds like a problem so far.
And after they figured out what the problem was and resolved it, even just an hour after the service went down, they had to have a long tail of recovery, primarily because a lot of these systems have a dependency on DynamoDB, including EC2, including network load balancer, and other stuff. So as soon as they got everything to work, the system, like a region of AWS, is actually essentially a large beast which you have to slowly wake up. You cannot just press a button and everything to light up. It would actually be a bad thing. It would cause other failures.
So for some context here, DynamoDB is a database, right?
Yes.
During their whole process here, they probably had to reboot the database. Now, when you reboot a database, that does clear the database cache. Now, when you do that, you can't just open the floodgates to all the requests, because then it's just going to immediately crash. What you need to do is you need to trickle the traffic in, let them make their request. That way, it can slowly rebuild that cache that it's been relying on. If you're a sysadmin and you've dealt with MySQL databases before, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So,
and more importantly, in the meantime, while this stuff was offline, other services that were working, let's say, correctly, were basically building up messages for the services that weren't working correctly. For example, Lambda messages were building up, SQS messages were building up, or Lambda requests and SQS messages were building up, which means that by the point when everything started working again internally, it could start processing those old messages. But because the heap of these things was so large, it took a while for it all to process before they could actually open the floodgates of actual internet and new things. So by 3:01 p.m. PDT, all AWS services returned to normal operation. And some services even still had a backlog of messages that had to finish processing for a few hours after that. The main thing was that the most important messages were being cleared and were being actually processed. So, Josh, do you know what this was failure of?
So it sounds to me like what it is, that it's all of these other companies that happen to make use of the AWS services, like say the Fortnite game servers, or your favorite task manager, Asana, and like other services like that happen to be using the US East 1 data center. But
yes,
there's ways to mitigate that.
Yes. So here is the thing. Here is where our title comes in. While I don't think actually AWS did nothing wrong, it wasn't their fault everything was down. What they did wrong was being dependent on US East 1 for things like IAM and Dynamo global tables. But the reason half of the internet was down is because these services didn't implement the basics of good redundancy. Essentially, what they needed to implement was, if US East 1 region is down, there should be at least, I don't know, EU West one or whatever it's called, or EU East one that you can fall back on. Apparently, none of them had anything like that set up, or if they did, their control backends were dependent on US East one, therefore they couldn't fall back to some other region, which is also a problem. So do not solely blame AWS. They say that they can have chance outages. That is nothing new. They warn against them, and warn to have other regions as a fallback route, as some sort of a fallback. But apparently nobody listened.
Apparently nobody did. Like, let's use our services for example. Just go to Tuxbase.com. Now, when you go to Tuxbase.com, yes, the Tuxbase.com server is in a single data center. But when you go to listen to our episodes from our Castopod instance, that is coming from somewhere else entirely. It's not coming from that server.
Yes.
That's coming through our Cloudflare system.
Yes, through a CDN hosted by Cloudflare. And as soon as you have your feed downloaded to the device, our feed, the feed that lists all the episodes, you aren't actually dependent on our servers. You are dependent just on Cloudflare, which makes it a lot easier for us to be failed yet still work.
Yeah, because theoretically speaking, yes, we are still our content is hosted by Cloudflare. So if Cloudflare goes down, you can't download our stuff. But here's the flip. There's a flip side to this, Bigpod. We also syndicate. Because Spotify, you know how Spotify gets our show? They download it. And now you can listen to our show from Spotify. Same with iTunes. Or YouTube, because we also upload there too.
Yeah.
So if for some reason you can't get our episode from there because, Cloudflare is down, there are still ways you can get our content because we make sure that that's available to you. Also, it helps us show up in like the search bars for like your podcast applications too. So that's why we had to syndicate. But
Also, it's gonna be a really sad day if Cloudflare goes down.
That too.
I think this service outage of AWS would look like a drop in the bucket, a normal day, compared to if Cloudflare actually went down.
Yeah, because AWS is seemingly half the internet. Cloudflare is actually half the internet.
Cloudflare is essentially reverse proxy for about 75% of the internet.
Yeah. So hopefully
and
Cloudflare
DNS
never goes
provider
down.
for probably 50% of it. If all of this goes down, it's game over for a while.
Yeah. So we make that stuff available, and I think that as our show grows, we've also been talking about like our plans as well, because I would like to give our European friends and our European listeners a much faster way to download a 30 megabyte MP3 file, because if we get enough funding together, I'm perfectly fine with spinning up a server in an EU data center somewhere that bounces off a load balancer, so that way when you go to download episode because you just got it on your RSS reader, it's there. You're downloading it from a sort of local data center to you, so you can get that episode to your device faster, so you can listen to us faster. It's a much nicer experience overall.
Yeah.
And just doing that alone will give us a more built-in redundancy as well. But Bigpod, as amazing as our system is, we do have some flaws, and hosting everything in like my closet is not necessarily the world's best solution either, because I imagine somebody's going to mention that.
Yes. Even if you host things at co-location or at your own closet or some other type of non-cloud data center, these can still go wrong. Whether they go wrong at your level, whether they go wrong at data center level or a connection level. Remember, a backhoe can still cut the fiber lines just as much as the rack next door to yours can catch on fire, and that effectively puts down your servers as well. That's why disaster recovery or having a backup region, whether it be in a cloud or another data center, is just as important right now with a co-location or at home as it is with cloud. There
Wait.
isn't just like
Wait,
if you're at a
Bigpod.
co-location, you're
Hold on a
safe from
second here.
being taken down.
Wait, Bigpod. Did you just say backup? As in good backups?
Well, backup in this case, what I meant is something that you can fall upon. In professional terms, this would call it disaster recovery, but in more colloquial terms, this would be like a backup location where you can just quickly, whether it be like in 5-10 minutes, switch over to and be back online, be usable for your customers. Like in our case, we should have at some point another, whether it be in cloud, whether it be in another data center somewhere, another version of our database, a one-to-one copy, and a one-to-one copy of the container that actually runs the the castopod instance. So even if, let's say, we have, let's say, our data center that we're currently using cloud, even a meteor falls on it, or whatever happens, they go down for whatever reason, all I have to do is change few addresses in DNS, and users won't even see the difference. And that's what most of these services that fell down during the US East 1 failure didn't have. Because it is just as important to have it for cloud as it's having for your own service. Actually, that's something we forgot when we started using cloud, really.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
cloud sounded safer because it's run by someone like Amazon, someone like Microsoft, someone like Google, and not by, well, team of engineers at company X who does it for 5 servers.
Right, that
Team of one engineer at Tuxbase Media Group.
Yeah. Like, I have watched that YouTube video called "The Web Server's Down." I'm sure you've probably seen it before too. That's somebody else's problem there.
Probably.
That's what that is. Oh yeah, the web server's
Yes.
down. Just go
The
send
server's
in
down is
send in a
not my
ticket
problem.
and let them work on it. They'll let you know when they get it working. That
Yes,
was the idea of the cloud. Turns out that's not how the cloud works.
But it doesn't really matter. Yeah, they will fix the server, but the service that runs on that server, what you showcase to the user, isn't their problem. That's you problem, or in our case, me problem. So I still have to plan on that for that to happen, because even if I'm at a co-location, what if, as I said, what if the next door neighbor or next rack neighbor, we should say, well, their server has a catastrophic failure and lights itself on fire?
Yeah, just say like power supply explodes because that's the thing that happens.
Yes. What will happen? They'll cut the power and Ethernet to entire island, to entire row of racks, because that's a smart thing to do. So they can actually use the proper techniques to stop that fire, to assess the damage, because it could be damage to their own infrastructure, and that will take time. Now, do you want 2-3 days of service down because it wasn't our fault, but service is still down because of a technical failure? I still have to plan for it. And same thing needs to happen in cloud, whether we like it or not. It's just that the server that hosts the service isn't my problem. I just alleviate part of the responsibility to someone else,
right? And
nothing else.
if even if it's like say a server that's just technically worse performing than your primary one, that's still better than nothing. Because heaven
Yeah,
forbid,
just that people have the service
yeah, heaven forbid,
because
this this AWS outage was 15 hours long. How long does it take for
yes,
DNS? How much does it change? How long does it take for DNS to repropagate after you just change a DNS entry, point it
like
to another server?
up to an hour for the whole
Yeah,
world.
yeah.
For most of Western world, 10 minutes.
Right? It's like that.
Yeah,
10 minutes to an hour sounds a lot better than 15. Just saying.
yeah. And if you have other techniques, it can be even faster. If you already had it in the DNS, you just had it like, I don't know, as a secondary with very low priority. It would automatically, since that one won't work, you automatically go to the other one because DNS tends to be really smart these days.
That's true.
So that can all be really pretty much arranged these days. Problem is if you do not arrange it.
That is true.
And remember, a couple of years ago, an entire data center burned down here in Europe. Those customers needed to have a disaster recovery plan. Many of them still had problems because they let's be honest, a lot of us, including me, think I have my server, my cloud, what will happen to it? Well, US East 1 showed us what can happen to it.
That's right.
That fire showed us what can happen to it. We, as a community of cloud engineers, server engineers, need to do better.
And heaven forbid, if you can't just do better, at least have a backup of the data so you can just, worst case scenario, redeploy somewhere else if you have to.
Yes. So, we need to do good enough, you're trying to say.
Yeah.
And remember, backup. Now we're going to go to the actual meaning of the word backup, as in data backup.
Oh, right.
You should use 3-2-1. If you make a backup of your database, put it at 3 different locations or 2 other locations, at least 2 different mediums, whether it be cloud storage, whether it be a drive. You need to do that. And
Right.
you need to also, importantly, test that backup. It doesn't matter if you make million backups, which is storage intensive very much. We're talking terabytes of storage, but if you do not test your backup, even million backup doesn't help you if all of them have garbled data in it.
Yep.
Those backups don't matter. You need to have a backup that actually works. And when you have that kind of a backup, you can really quickly get up to date, start, whether it be on another server, in cloud, or completely, for example, even on a satellite if necessary. Let's say if it's a global flood. Of course, then people would care about other stuff, but you know what I'm trying to say. That no matter what happens, you can start, your service can start over and start offering your users an experience. Could it be degraded? Yes, but at least there is an experience to be had. Because reputation will be lower, but it won't be as low as your service not running for 15, 20, 30 hours or even more. Because then users will go to a different service and won't use you anymore. Maybe they'll use you to get data off of you, and that's it.
Right, and if you have battle tested backups, that just makes redeploying easier.
Yeah.
It really is, because then you just know how to do it. Obviously, you're also going to eventually learn to like document it as well.
Josh,
Oh.
have you been testing any of our backups?
I have actually tested our backups. Well, mostly it's just looking to
Good.
see if the files are there because I don't know how the heck you actually deploy them. I just have them.
Good. At least that's something. We know that files exist and they have data in them. That's enough.
If you want to give us funding, just go to
Exactly.
patreon.com/NoTuxAllowed. Drop us a couple dollars there. If you do drop us a couple dollars there, you'll gain access to a higher quality audio feed, sometimes with bonus content.
Yeah.
Which I should probably put some bonus content on there. I've been thinking
Me
about
too.
it. Been thinking about it. But Bigpod, I think we need to have a chat here because I think it's time that the community tells me the next distro I install. Right? Bigpod
And
wants
I,
me to use something that actually works, like a good distro.
of
But
course.
I'm a savage. And I've been getting like these Gen 2 vibes lately. I want to it's getting chilly in here, Bigpod. That's what it is. It's getting chilly. It that I haven't turned on my heat yet, but if I install Gen 2, I might not have to. I just need to just constantly compile Chromium in the background. That's all I need to do. That's really it.
Josh.
Last time, it actually did make a noticeable difference to the room temperature when I told every single one of the computers in my household to compile Chromium.
Yeah, I know. I compiled Gentoo in the middle of summer. I know how hot it gets because of it.
I've been getting that. The lighted right now. All of my systems, besides like my desktop, are all running Debian stable, running that running that Trixie release, that Debian 13.0. Rock solid system. Not really going to be switching them anytime soon. But the desktop is basically just like disposable OS, the system, so I'm willing to just throw something on there. Obviously, it's we've got to be able to use it just enough to record a show. So that's like the one requirement. I gotta be able to have at least access to, say, OBS Studio, and I think I'm fine. Which,
Josh.
yeah, and if I'm gonna be doing this, also, I guess my printer is also kind of important too. So maybe I should just set up a cup server already. That way, things actually just work out of the box.
Yeah. Josh.
But anyways, I think that's enough to wrap up the show there. So I think I'll see you next week, Big Pod, and of course, I'll see you next week, Mr. Listener.
Goodbye.